All right. Everybody getting ready? Everybody excited? It's time to work. It's a working session.
Hey, all right, everybody. Oh, it's working. Grab your seats. It's time to roll. Come on in. Come on in. Grab your seats.
All right.
Well, hey, Mary Hart. There she is. Michelle, how you doing? Patty.
Oh.
Dealmaker. All right, grab your seats, guys. Grab your seats. Come on in. Come on in, grab a seat, guys. Come on in. Let's go. It's go time. Chuck, how you doing? They won't hear me, will they?
Keep saying. All right, we're getting started.
All right, guys, we're starting. Come on in.
Come on in.
Yeah, it's almost lunchtime. We're going to start without him.
All right.
All right.
Let's close the doors. Lock them. Let's lock them. Let's kick them out. All right. Are you guys ready? Everybody got their pens and paper out?
You're all right,
iPads,
Jeff, are you good to go?
notebooks, whatever it is.
Oh, you are no notes Jeff this time, aren't you? I keep thinking.
Yep.
All right, how many of you guys enjoyed Jeff's first session today? Thought it was very inspiring. That's what I heard, Jeff. You inspired people. Jeff Watson may have kicked some people in the teeth, but you inspired.
So
we're back.
let me tell you a joke. So when we actually were beginning, and Jeff's not in here, right? No. Okay, because this is at his expense. Good. So the three of us were talking about putting the event together and stuff, and the question came up, okay, Jeff, so what are you going to talk about? And I said to Watson, I said, my job is to come and take everything that you say and turn it into English so people can understand it. Right? That's my goal, is to just kind of bring things down to really a practical level so that you guys can actually execute and implement stuff. So this particular session is really going to be a working session. So this is going to be a little bit less of me talking. So I'm probably only going to talk for, 10, 15 minutes. And then we're actually going to start doing some work at each of your tables of stuff that's practical and things you guys can take home with you. Okay? So we don't want this boot camp to really just be a bunch of information spewed at you guys. Now, how many of you guys have ever been to an event before? Most everybody, right? Okay. I don't know if you guys have the same problem I do, but I imagine that there's a lot of you that do. And one of the biggest problems that I have when I go to events like this, and I love going to events. You can call me a junkie if you'd like course junkie, boot camp junkie, whatever. I just love this kind of stuff. My biggest fear is hearing information that I really want to implement. And I take great notes on stuff, and then I go home and I have 10 ideas of what it is I need to do, but I have no plan and nothing put in place on how to actually do it. So when I go to a conference and I learn 10 things, how many of them do you think that ever actually get done? One, maybe two, but they never get done quickly because 10 ideas is overwhelming. The problem is that you guys, every time you come to a conference, if it's good at all, not even great, just good, you end up with 10 ideas. And so the purpose of this session really is to take a lot of what Jeff just talked about and figure out how can we build our own set of underwriting criteria. How is it that we can start to take what we do as lenders and build a box. Okay? Now, when my kids were little, this is how I actually taught my kids how to follow rules, right? Because kids want to be free, right? Most kids, they love to run around and play, and they just kind of want to do what they want to do, and they don't really know or understand whether something's good, bad, or indifferent. They just want to play, right? And sometimes what they do is harmful to themselves and others. And so I built what I referred to with my kids as the box. And I said, the box is where you are allowed to roam free. You can do anything you want as long as you stay within the box. If you step outside the box, it's not going to be fun. Dad's job is to knock you back into the box. Okay? Now, in the lending space, what is outside the box? What is out there that's going to knock us back into the box? It's things like foreclosure. It's things like borrowers who lied to us. It's things like borrowers who commit fraud, right? All these things, that's the stuff outside the box, because like when we're parents and we're working with kids, we don't want them to get hurt by those things. And I can tell you over the years, and not that I'm an attorney by any stretch, but I've been doing stuff long enough that a lot of people have come and called and asked, what do I do when this happens? Like, what have you done? And the reason that people get into trouble is because they don't have a box. They think they're swimming in the ocean. And it's really easy to jump into that ocean because no one's taught us how to frame our version of lending. Now, the reason why this is also a workshop is because I could sit up here and I can tell you everything that we do as an organization. And everything that I do is not necessarily something that every single one of you want to do. You may disagree with some of the things that I do. You could disagree with some of the things that Jeff does. You can disagree with lots of, if you come around, there's other people in here that have been lending for a while. You'll talk to them. You may disagree with some of the things they do because your risk tolerance is a little bit different. Does anybody know what underwriting really is? Risk management. It's just a fancy word to say, I'm trying to figure out how much risk is in the deal for me. Am I willing to take the risk or am I not willing to take the risk? Okay? So everything that Jeff just talked about regarding what he does and what he recommends for underwriting, and I'm not trying to take anything away from what he's talked about, because every single thing he said is 1,000+% real. You will run into almost every single thing that he mentioned and then some, because people are people, okay? We all make mistakes, us included as lenders, us as BART, we all make mistakes. That's why you're going to run into it. So the question is, if you're going to start looking at risk assessment and underwriting, what criteria matter to you? This is where the disagreements come in. This is where, and it's not that we're like fighting disagreements, it's just, no, I don't think that's a big deal. I'd be willing to take that risk. I'm willing to take a risk in a loan that I'm doing because I like that house. And you know what? If they screw it up, I'd be happy to get it back, right? That changes the perspective in what you will or won't do with a loan, who you will or won't lend to. Sometimes the risk that you're willing to take on the deal, because the deal itself is so good, you may choose to overlook some of the things that are on the people list of things that, you may not want to do. Like you may say someone has to have a 650 credit score or you just won't do business with them. Well, what if somebody comes to you, it's a 600 credit score, and it is a deal that you wish you were buying right now? Would you make an exception to it? It's a good question. Now, here's the reason why we need to build a box. Is it dangerous to deviate from your set of rules that you create? That's why I referred to them as money rules. Because what are we risking? Money. Is there anybody in here who doesn't like money? No hands. Look at that. Nobody's in here. Everybody likes it. Money makes the world go round. We can't really live without it. We can't buy food. We can't put gas in our cars. We can't go anywhere. You can't come here. Like, money is important. It's not supposed to be our primary focus of everything in the world that we do, and everything we do is about money. But money will always rank high because money is lifestyle. Money is the benefits that we give to our family and our friends. Money is the charity that we do. Money is at the core of all of the things in life, and that's why we need to start working on building a box. And every one of you may end up with something different. Totally okay. Okay? But when you build this box, you need to learn to stay in your box. You have to learn to step back in time and pretend you're the kid again. Because when you step outside the box, what happens? How did your parents treat you when you guys were rude and disrespectful and didn't follow the rules as kids? I know how my parents treated me. As an autistic kid, I didn't have a filter. I was a hard kid. Somehow I magically managed to turn out okay in the end, but I really didn't understand because of social problems that come with what I have, and I had a hard time learning those social constructs. I didn't understand that box. So I would say anything to anyone. I thought everybody was the same. That meant that the kid my age, I treated the exact same as I would treat an adult. The teachers, the principals, right? The rule makers, the people that were whacking me back into that box all the time. The box that I fought tooth and nail. Why do I tell you that? Because the box you guys are about to build, guess what you're going to want to do? You're going to want to step outside the box. Because on the other side of that box is the grass that we think is greener. And we keep thinking, oh my God, that is an amazing deal. Oh my God, that is such an amazing person, right? Think back to church, my example earlier. You met these really amazing people at church, and they are just the nicest, kindest, sweetest people in this entire world, and you can't even imagine not wanting to be their friend because they are just amazing. And they have no idea how to do real estate, but they asked you to lend them $100,000 so they could go flip a house. They don't know anything about construction. They don't know anything about deal analysis. They don't know anything about anything, just that they saw on HGTV that it always works out perfectly fine. Even when you're over budget by $100,000, you still magically make money. This is why we need a box. Because life is not HGTV. Lending is not HGTV. And don't get me wrong, I like watching those shows. I get lots of ideas. I also have a really warped sense of humor because I watch the LTVs and that kind of stuff when a lot of these deals, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a 95% LTV on that thing. What was that lender thinking, right? So I have a twisted sense of humor with it. It's fun. I can't even talk about it at home because my wife she's not in the real estate space, so I can't even talk about when I'm, ready to mock the stupidities of, stepping outside the box. But you are all going to want to step out. I promise you. You will all do it. Matter of fact, I will almost guarantee every one of you will do it. The question is, how far outside the box will you guys go? So, what are the money rules that you guys need to start talking about? Okay? And this is why this is going to be a workshop, and essentially just about everybody's at a table. with other people. And so we're not going to mix the room up or anything crazy like that. But I'm going to ask you guys to start talking about ideas with yourselves, amongst yourselves at the table. What is an acceptable LTV to you? Right? And I'm just going to give you a list of examples. This is not an all-encompassing list. There are things that you guys may find important I didn't list for you. I want you guys to talk about them because this is what sets us all apart. I might think that a 70% LTV is an amazing thing, and if I can do a deal at 70%, I'm in all day. And one of you else might say, you know what, I won't go over 65. 65 is my number. Or I won't do the deal, even at 70%, I won't do the deal unless I'm getting paid interest plus a portion of the back end. And I want to split and a cut off of that profit on the backside. Some of you probably already do stuff like that. There's lots of ways to create a box that works for you guys. Every single rule that you guys create, like LTV, there's LTC, which is loan to cost, right? LTV is loan to value. LTC is loan to cost. Are you guys willing to lend on rehab? How will you lend on rehab? Are you guys crazy enough to just stroke a check when somebody says, I need $50,000 to do the renovations on this thing? Do you just give it to them at closing? I've made that dumb mistake when I was young. I, lucky enough, have never had someone walk off with that money and not do what they said they were going to do when I was young and dumb with it. I lucked out. The good news for me is I had a friend who wasn't so lucky. And so I got to live the consequences vicariously. So I got to watch him lose 50 grand and learn the lesson without me having to lose 50 grand. Okay? For those of you in the room that are borrowers, I know that the gurus teach you, take all the money up front. Part of the benefit of being here is that you get the opportunity to learn to think like a lender. If you want your deals funded, you have to learn what is important to us. What are we after? And I can tell you that it's the fourth P, is bar none the most important thing to us. Are we going to get our money back? Period. The rest of the P's, you can throw them all out the window as far as priorities go. There is nothing else that's more important than getting your money back. Getting your money back with no profit, getting out of a bad deal, is a win. All day, every day. That is a massive win, okay? This is, again, why we need the box of rules. You need to practice not going outside the rules. You need to practice not changing the rules on a whim because you like somebody. What else is there? How are you going to manage that scope of work? Are you guys going to do draws? How are you going to charge them for the draws? When they turn in receipts and say, I need $10,000 to pay for this stuff, do you just write them a check? Do you inspect the work? Do you actually go and verify that they actually did $10,000 worth of work, or do you just take their word for it because they gave you a receipt? How do you know that the receipt came from that project? Do you want to know one of the number one things that borrowers do that they don't understand the consequences of when they borrow money from lenders? Is they rob Peter to pay Paul, which means they borrow money on project A, they're over budget on project B, which lender A didn't lend on, and they take funds and they move them over and they pay for things on B. What happens when that happens? What happens to the lender? Okay, which house now has a problem? Let's rephrase that. Which house now has a problem? Probably not both, because I took all the money and I fixed this one. So the house that I don't have a loan on is fine. probably lender B is what I'm going to call a real hard money lender. Why would they get preferential treatment? Why would I rob Peter to pay Paul? Just so you guys know, we're watching that on the screen. Not that it bothers me, but, right? But how does this stuff really affect things? They do it for the hard money lender, and they get that project done because they're more afraid of that lender than they are of you. Why are they not afraid of you? Because they know you'll go outside the box. Because 99% of private lenders don't have one. They don't have one. That's the beauty of private lending. Like, it's flexible all over the place. Like, it's really the wild, wild west and the free range, right? Like, I live in Wisconsin, and there's lots of states like Wisconsin, but I know Wisconsin's laws pretty much like the back of my hand. Do you want to know how hard it was to actually learn the lending laws in the state of Wisconsin? Took about 15 minutes. You know why it took 15 minutes? Because it took me that long to realize there aren't any. Wisconsin is the state where it is truly the wild, wild west. We have no usury laws, none. I could charge 1,000,000,000% interest, that's legal. Right? There's other states that do the same thing. We're not the only ones. You don't have to be licensed in any way, shape, fashion, or form to do hard money, private money, as long as it's for investment purposes, which means don't do it with a homeowner, don't do residential loans. But as long as you stay with real estate investors or some sort of investment type property or a business loan or something, it is the wild, wild west. You can do any damn thing you want. The state looks at it and says, y'all are big boys and big girls. You put your pants on this morning all the same as everybody else, and if you guys made a deal, y'all made a deal. That's how it works. Now, why else do you still need rules and understand when there's no rules, you still have to have rules that you need to create? Because just because there are no rules doesn't mean there aren't any rules. That was a hard lesson I had to learn. Did you know that judges are people? Did you know that they can interpret things any way they want to? Did you know that a judge can look at your deal and look at the amount of interest that they think you're making with fees and whatever and decide that's just ridiculous? And they can label you as predatory. And even if they screw you over on this one deal, once you get tagged as predatory, that's now in the court records, which is public. How much does that hurt your business? Now, I've never been hit for predatory, but I have had to foreclose. And when I foreclosed, I found out that the fees and the interest rates and all the other stuff that we had designed into it, we had to waive a ton of it. Because if we had stood in front of a judge and said, we'd really like that judgment now, and let's say I lent $100,000, and we designed the architecture so that it would strip the equity out of the house, because if somebody's going to screw me over, they shouldn't make any money, right? That's not right. And they look at it and say, you know, your $128,000 worth of fees is a little ridiculous on a $100,000 loan. Because when you look at late fees and interest rates, and you're talking high interest rates now, say 24 to 30% is default rates, pretty common everywhere. Guess how long it takes to really jack up the amount of money that is there? It doesn't take long at all. You know, we charge extension fees. Do you guys want to charge extension fees if somebody doesn't pay off on time? That's part of your money rules. We charge extension fees. If you're in default, that fee goes up. Why does the fee go up? It's not that I necessarily need nor want the money, because I'm trying to suck equity. I'm trying to make it more difficult for the borrower who's misbehaving, For me, it's mostly psychological. That's why I said it's not about the money. It's a psychological thing. See, if I start getting really, really aggressive with what I'm charging, and this is stuff I want you guys to talk about, if I get really aggressive and I start jacking up my fees, see, I know if I got to go stand in front of a judge, I know I'm waiving it all. Like, I'm not going to actually get it. I'm never going to get that judgment. But the borrower doesn't typically know. And so when I look at somebody and say, listen, you're 6 months late. Let's say we've given them that much grace. You're 6 months late, because we still believed it was a really good deal and we could work through this. But let's say they're 6 months late, and we were dumb enough to not collect any fees. I'm just going to give you a scenario of what a lot of private lenders do, which is like a worst case scenario. You're charging fees, but you haven't actually collected them. You've structured this thing to just let it go for a while. 6 months have gone by, and there's $50,000 worth of extension fees, extra interest, whatever it is. And you call your borrower up, and you really want them to finish the project, get it sold, get it off the books, and just get you paid back. Your borrower's looking at the loan amount or the payoff amount and going, oh, wow, this is crazy. Like, I can't even sell. I'm making nothing in this deal. Like, it's gone. Okay, that's my intention. I want it to look that way. I want it to look that way because then I can also negotiate. Because here's the thing about lending. You can only negotiate in one direction. That's it. Just one. Now, you can negotiate in the other direction. At the beginning of the loan, when you guys originate it, you can negotiate up if you want to then. But once you sign all the paperwork, you can only negotiate down. You can't look at somebody and say, well, I know we decided to do this loan at 6%, but you know, you're making too much money in this deal and you're a little bit late, so I'm jacking the rate up to 12 because I think that's just more fair to me. That doesn't hold up anywhere. You can't just charge more for the sake of charging more. This is why we need rules. We have to design the architecture behind these things and put some thought into what we're doing, because in the end, we want to be in a position where we're controlling more of the conversation than they are. You want to be in a position that, sorry for the couple of attorneys around, that actually puts you in a better position to fight the attorneys off. Because a well-funded borrower can still make life suck when they have a good attorney, right? So we need to create structures to at least give us some leverage and upper hand in this negotiation. And it's a lot easier to get out of bad deals when you're agreeable to things. And I'm not talking about trying to position yourself so you look weak. I'm talking about when you look at them and say, listen, if you're willing to do this, I'm willing to cut $25,000 off the fees that you owe tomorrow. Yes, sir.
If you do that, then you need to write a new contract so they're on the same page. In other words, you're going to verbal agreement.
So it's a valid question. So he's asking, if I decide to make an adjustment, do I need to write it down? So this is another really good thing to consider. Do you want to write it down? Do you have to write it down? The answer is no, you don't have to write it down. Now, if you make an agreement verbally with someone, technically that's allowable, although you have a valid contract. So if you get in front of a judge, that's what they're going to use, not the verbal. But if you make verbal agreements with people and then you don't follow them yourselves, guess what happens to your reputation really fast? I've done a lot of lending in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1 million people. You guys know how small Milwaukee really is? It's tiny. Do you know why it's tiny? Because everybody knows everybody. Why does everybody know everybody? For 2 reasons. RIAs and apartment associations. Because everybody hangs out in the same 2 groups. So guess how long it takes for your reputation to have somebody say you're not a man of your word or a woman of your word, and that you screwed them over. It's hard enough when they screw the deal up and have them not already try to trash you. and say bad things about you and make up stories that aren't true. It's hard enough to manage our reputation in today's keyboard warrior society where stories come out and anybody can say anything with no consequences. This is why it becomes important to be in a position where we can ask for help, negotiate things out, have conversations with our attorneys, and work through problems. Because I promise you, there's going to be stuff that hits you guys at some point that's going to be bigger than you. And you're going to have to bring in someone bigger than you to help you fix the mess. This is why we need rules. Because the rules help us avoid these mistakes. They help us stay out of trouble. We don't want Big Brother smacking us back inside the box. Okay? We don't want reputations in the court system. We don't want reputations in the RIAs. We don't want it in the apartment associations. We don't want it at all. Okay? Now, I don't think that's rocket science or shocking to anybody that reputation management is critical. It's the reason why we do the networking and stuff, right? This is all about relationships and all that stuff. And it's hard. So what are more rules that you guys should consider talking about? What are you going to do if the deal goes bad? You have to plan your exit before you give the loan. So what are you going to come up with for rules for that? Why is it important to plan your exit when things go wrong? We kind of talked about it earlier. How many of you guys have ever known a real estate investor who put a house under contract and couldn't wait to lose money on it? Do you know why I take a negative stance on almost every single loan? I'm not trying to be negative. It's just I have to take that stance because I guarantee you the borrower isn't. Listen to every single conversation that you guys have with every single borrower out there, and there's only 2 conversations that come out 98% of the time. I'm going to make this, and I'm going to make this. It's just a difference in tonality, right? But they're always talking about the deal and how great the deal is and how much money's in the deal, because you wouldn't do the deal if it wasn't. And so that's why the focus is there. So it's not meant to be a dig or a derogatory thing. It's just a reality. They wouldn't be doing the deal if the deal wasn't good. And they're borrowing the money because of the deal. So that's all you talk about is the deal. And naturally, as people, we talk about what we're going to do in the deal, because when we're trying to sell it to the other person, whether it be a hard money lender or a private lender, we're talking about why this is a good deal for them. Except instinctively and naturally, we tend to use the word I way more often than we should when we talk about this stuff. We don't really talk about we. That's why I said this morning, I like to refer to myself really more as a financial partner in the deal and treat my borrowers that way than to just act like a lender. I don't want to look like a bank. I don't want to look like a loan shark. I don't want to look like any of those guys. I want to look like somebody who truly wants to help solve problems and help everybody make money. Why do you want to help everybody make money? Because we make more money. This is why this is such a relationship business, right? If I scratch your back, you automatically scratch mine in this world. That's what happens. You don't even have to ask anybody to do it. If I help you out, I automatically make money. So why not be as helpful as possible? Okay, so how are you going to help people? What rules are you willing to bend under what circumstances? How much flexibility are you willing to put into things? Where's your wiggle room? Right? Sorry, I'm just checking time here. So what is all of that stuff? All of these things are just what's important to you. How much do you guys value your money? And how much of it do you want to lose? The less you like to lose, the tighter your rules are going to be. The more you're willing to lose, because maybe you're structuring deals to have much higher rates of returns. and because you think your rates of returns are high enough that it warrants a little bit of extra risk to hit it, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just that's a personal preference. Are you willing to take more risk than the next guy? Yes or no? I've got a friend. He doesn't do any loans under 18% and 5 points. If you're not willing to pay him 5 points and 18%, he'd rather just let his money sit. Why? Because the only deals that can afford 18% and 5 are solid. And at those interest rates, that's not really what he's expecting to make. He knows that he'll do X number of deals, and when you kind of blend those numbers back together and you look at what he does over a year, he's hitting his number. But he's using his money rules to control the deals that he does, and he's willing to do fewer deals to make the same money because he's just more protective. So charging more can be an asset, and I tell you guys that because everybody thinks that you have to be the cheapest guy in town to get the business. You don't. My biggest competitor down in Milwaukee starts at 15 and 5. That's a starting rate. Will they negotiate down? Yes, they will. Why? Because they'll compete against me. So they'll lower to come to me. I'm not the cheapest guy. I'm just not the most expensive guy either. I just want to be in that sweet spot that's just fair, reasonable, somewhat aggressive, but not too aggressive, because I still want to get a flow of business. These are the things you guys got to think about. Do you guys expect equity on the back end? Chuck's going to talk about wraps later. Is it better for you guys to be involved in wraps, whether you're in first or second? Because you guys might be the underlying lender in first, working with someone who does wraps, knowing that that person has a lot more experience lending money than you do and will help you get through and do a deal analysis. Wraps are a fantastic way to get into lending and bring someone with experience with you. It's a fantastic way. I used to do a ton of wraps. I switched my model from doing wraps to servicing contracts instead. It ends up being almost exactly the same. It's just easier for me. And when you get to a certain size, unfortunately, you do have to focus on some efficiencies and some things that make you more effective in the marketplace, so that you can be better and do better, right? And so all of your businesses will change over time as you grow. So I want to take about 15 to 20 minutes and let you guys, actually let's cut it to 10, then we'll take some Q&A instead at the end. Let's take 10 minutes and amongst yourselves at each of the tables, talk about the things, whether you're doing them or not. This isn't about what you do or don't do in your business as much as it is what are the things that you think are important. And the reason that we want to focus on just what do you think is important that should be considered, even if you looked at it and said, not for me, it's out, throw it on the table anyway because it might be important to someone else on the table. By collaborating, you guys are going to come up with a really nice set of money rules. And you'll come up with a really great box that you'll be able to do business with effectively. And you'll be able to have this box that outlines the specific kinds of deals you want to do. Could be dollar ranges too, like I'm not willing to fund a deal over 200 grand. Maybe that's your sweet spot. Maybe you can afford to do more. Maybe you can afford 100 grand. It doesn't matter. But you need to put down some numbers. Where is your sweet spot? What are you willing to do? How many loans are you willing to give to the same person? What do you consider safe? If you look at your total portfolio of money you're willing to lend, how much are you willing to expose to one borrower? As a borrower, how many do you want to take from the same lender? As much as we all would love to just make it simple and just do business with one person, how much are you going to take from one borrower? Because if you screw up, look at the damage that happens. You literally could wipe out one person, like completely, by screwing stuff up. So let's take about a quick 10 minutes and let's just start tossing ideas amongst ourselves. write them all down, okay? And then when we come back at the end of 10 minutes, so right now I'm looking at the clock in the back, says 11:46. Okay, so then we're going to come back and let's do a quick Q&A over what we just talked about. I'm for you. All right. One quick thing, just to make sure we're clear. You guys are discussing the rules that you guys would like for your money rules, what the potential rules are. All right. Has anybody got any questions around it? Everybody good? Everybody's clear? About 3 more minutes. I love the fact that people are working on putting money rules together and really building out the framework for. All right, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, so let's start wrapping up what we're working on, and then we'll come back together. All right, 1 minute. One minute to wrap up what you guys are talking about. All right, let's wrap it up. Everybody start bringing their attention back up here. All right. So who's got some feedback they'd like to provide? Who thinks they came up with some good ideas? Anybody? Who's got good ideas? Anybody? You guys are still talking way too much. But it's awesome. I can't whistle. Sorry. I can't whistle. All right. Let's bring her back. Okay. So what did you guys come up with? What kinds of rules? There's a couple that I strategically left off that I didn't mention just to see if anybody would think of them. And some of them are actually really, really basic things. So who came up with what? What's that? What do we got, Randy?
I always want to be in first position.
First position.
Yeah, first position.
Yep. So Randy wants to be first position. All right, let him go.
Let me
Yep.
read the list.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about price point being affordable housing. Depends on the market that you're in. Romero was talking about 250 to 300K. We talked about flood zones. I'm not a fan of flood
Yep.
zones, personally.
There's
Loan to value at 70%. The term of the contract, I've been doing 12 or 14. I think I'm going to back that down to 9 points. We talked about that. An extension fee. I have a
Yep.
question about extension fee. When they default, number of loans to a single entity. Getting lender title insurance.
Yep.
Hazard insurance up front. Builder's risk if it's a rehab.
Yep.
Okay. And then the thing that Jeff said that I've not done, the other Jeff said that I've not done is having it be the, not the lost payee.
Yep.
I was like, I'm the additional insured.
All right, so let me just quick add something on insurance. When you guys do a rehab loan to a lender, to a borrower, and borrowers, when you borrow money, when the rehab is done, do you get different insurance? When it's no longer a construction site? Do you have any idea how many don't? I'm going to tell you from experience, the vast majority of borrowers do not go get new insurance. So as lenders, we need to keep tabs on that stuff. Okay?
Same thing if they move in a renter on fixed hold.
Yep. If they move a renter in when it says there's nobody that can occupy, that's a problem. Well, yeah. So when you have like a builder's risk policy, that's all about construction. Okay? So now somebody moves in. They need a new policy because they got to get a landlord's policy. Now, of course, depends on how you set your loan up. Maybe you do, maybe you don't allow that to happen. That's one of the rules I left off. I also left off term. How long are you guys going to leave the money out there for? When do you want to get paid back? Right? Yeah, and how? The number one phone call that I get in our office, and every single person on my staff will confirm this, that most borrowers ask two questions almost every single time, and 90 to 95% of them don't ask any other question other than these two. What's your rate and what's your term? Most of them don't even ask what the points are. Like if you just said, oh, we're at 12%. Like, oh, great. That sounds fantastic. And how long? Oh, 6 months, 9 months? Well, perfect. Okay, that's what I need to know. No, that's not what you need to know. You need to know a lot more than that. But that's not what they're taught, right? And that's why I said, you know, in part of one of the things I said is you want to take a financial partner / consultative role in this stuff, because if you guys bring information to the table, and I know these money rules, you all think that these are just about protecting yourselves. They are a lot. And that's the number one reason why we create them. But did you guys know that you also just created a list of marketing tools? Nicole, I don't know if she's still in the room or not. There she is. She got the mic over here. So Nicole has been helping me work on the acquisition of that other hard money lender that we're doing, right? And she helped me put together the pitch deck and all that stuff for raising the capital to do it. And as we've been working on that, I've known for years that the story matters more than anything else that you do. I am an analytical nerd. Like, I'm super anal about stuff to the point of being stupid and ridiculous about things. I can't help it. It's one of my OCD things that kicks in, right? I'm very calculated and strategic in every move I make. I never make a move without a reason behind it. Whether anybody else in the world knows what it is or understands it, there is a reason and a motivation behind every single move I make. More often than not, I'm trying to position myself to help somebody, to put them and myself, not just me, in a better position as we work through it. When you put together your money rules, now you guys get to talk about how does that protect the other person too. Why do you want the loan paid back in 6 months instead of 9? Anybody know why you actually like shorter terms than longer terms? There's several reasons for it. One is the faster you move the money, the more money you make. But did you guys know that the longer the term you give to the borrower, the longer the time it takes them to get the project done, more often than not? It's not true with every borrower out there. Some are very good at getting things done and they understand the speed. But if you give somebody a 12-month loan, how long does the project usually take? It's going to take a lot longer than 6 for sure. I like shorter terms on my loans because I like to put the pressure on the borrower to perform. This isn't about rape and pillage. It's not even about trying to drive my bottom line and get as many extension fees as I can. That is not the motivation behind it. The motivation behind it is the velocity of money, just the ability to do more deals. Guess who makes more money if the project gets done faster? Everybody does. The faster that the borrower can get the project done, the faster they can get to the next deal. If you just help them focus, instead of doing 2 deals a year, they did 3 because there was a little bit of outside pressure put on them. How much did you just improve their financial situation by creating a financial rule that protects you but benefits them? It's all in the story that you tell in the presentation. Yes, sir.
So let's take that 3 for example. Do you feel that if you broke that 3 into 6 smaller, if you broke it into smaller, that you'd actually do more and do better?
No, I do not. So I don't think doing smaller loans is really a smart move. So Let me give you an example. I'm going to use the company that I'm buying as a sort of case study to answer your thing. So our specialty at Best REI Funding is residential loans. Our sweet spot is kind of in the $100,000 to say $400,000 loans. That's kind of where we've been known for a really long time. And that particular market is pretty darn easy to write loans in. And so getting a volume built up with that is not difficult because the vast majority of borrowers live in that sweet spot. That's why we picked it, right? Strategy. So we're looking at buying this other company, right? So we're working on that. And these guys like to fund commercial deals. All private capital. They found high net worth people that can fund these deals. And I asked them, why did you guys choose commercial over residential? Because the residential market is a lot easier. And their answer was, well, we started in residential. And we started doing all the deals that normal people do. And then, over time, people asked us about different kinds of deals, and we learned about it. And so we grew. And we started doing some slightly bigger deals. And something just became super evident in the pattern that was developing as they progressed into these bigger loans. Number one, a $50,000 loan at 3 points makes you $1,500. A $500,000 loan at 3 points makes you 15 grand. Guess how much the difference is in the work between the two? There's not. It's the same work. Okay, $50,000 borrower versus a $500,000 borrower. How many defaults do you think exist between the two scenarios? What do you think your foreclosure rate is between them? It's a big difference. Did you guys know that the bigger the deal, generally the lower the foreclosure rates go automatically? Why? Because the caliber of borrower is typically better. The reason that every single person in this room got into real estate was because you were looking to make money. I can say that and actually say, without exception, everyone got into it because of money. Why? Because everybody in the room got into real estate because of money. You guys can have lots of other reasons to tie into it, but money was part of it. So if you have a choice, which do you want to do? Do you want to write 10 $50,000 loans or write one 500? One of the criteria I hope some of you guys came up with is location matters. That's a basic rule that all the realtors talk about. Did you know that the neighborhood that you lend in has a massive impact on your foreclosure rate? Massive. You can find a real estate investor who's very successful, and let's say that their whole thing, they just do rentals. They buy properties, they fix them up, they refinance them, all as rentals. It matters what neighborhood they're working. I don't care how successful they are. If they're working in lower end neighborhoods, it makes us feel good to do gentrification. That's a feel good thing, right? I mean, hey, we're helping them improve the neighborhoods. I mean, look at how much nice housing they created by doing this. As part of your money rules, how much risk are you guys willing to take in a $50,000 neighborhood? Because it's drastically different in a $50,000 neighborhood than it is in a 500. I will lend at 100 grand. But what I also didn't mention is that $100,000 loan changes based on the ARV that I'm willing to take the risk on. And so if I'm willing to do a smaller loan at 100 grand, I'm lowering the LTV. And I'm requiring more skin in the game because at $100,000, it's more risk. A concept that nobody I know of in the lending space talks about is risk transference. It's just the transfer of risk. It's not complicated, it's pretty obvious. The rules that you guys create there does need to be some flexibility to it. I'm not saying that because I want you guys to take extra risks. What I'm saying is that if a deal comes in and it fits your box, but it just kind of feels it's right on the edge, adjust your terms. Adjust what you're willing to do down, not up. The borrower will always ask you to lower your standards, which means increase your risk. Because everybody wants a no money down deal, right? And I'm not saying no money down deals are bad. There's lots of them that are good. There's lots of them that happen. I've done lots of no money down deals with people over the years for the right property in the right situation. The risk was worth it because the reward was worth it. That was a property that I absolutely wanted if it went bad. I would have been honored and thrilled to have it. Okay, now it's not really a risk anymore. I'm like, hey, I'm either doing a loan or I'm buying a house. Either way, I'm winning. That's different. So as you guys talked about stuff, those are the kinds of things that we need to tag. Where do we shift? Where do we adjust? And how much, so we can figure out where we want to sit. But you guys should get a set of rules that you won't bend, that you won't go outside of. I'm not going into a $50,000 neighborhood. I don't care who the borrower is. I don't care how successful they are. That matters. Some of you, it doesn't, because maybe that's the kind of houses you guys buy. Maybe that's your rental portfolio. There's nothing wrong with it. If that's your portfolio, then all in. No problem. But to someone else, all out, right? I'm doing this with a lot of other people's money. I don't like taking a lot of risk. I don't like it when things are not negotiated properly. I don't like it when someone else has control. I don't like it when other people in my office make promises and commitments on me that I didn't have a say in. That really gets me testy quick. Money rules. Somebody does that, am I going to start enforcing the rule and making sure they don't ever do that again? Of course. Unfortunately, sometimes it's too late, and you have to fix the problem.
I like it.
I'm a good fixer. That's why the box is there. I'm hoping you guys learn the box and that you guys become really good fixers by not going outside the box. I don't want you to master how to fix all the crap that went wrong. I want you to master and be the fixer in the box, because then everybody wins. All right? With
Be
that,
in the box.
we're going to take everybody to
How
lunch
many of you
now.
guys have some tips in your mind on what you can do better on money rules and being in the box? Show of hands. How many of you guys feel like there's some things you need to tighten up after this morning's sessions? Okay.
Yeah.
Chuck Glover, come on up since you raised your hand.
And
Real
by the
quick.
way, I have to tell you, I was standing up here while you guys were all doing your thing, and of course I'm looking around the room, walking around. I never noticed Chuck's laptop before. Virginia is for Glovers.
Over here, Chuck. The steps are over here. Rita's got a couple of quick announcements.
And then we'll pray.
Yeah.
So lunch is down the hall. Stay right. There's another ballroom. It's called Crystal Ballroom. If you want to break in groups, so not all 150 of you get in line, the lunch will be out for you all. Bring your sweatshirt. It's also cool in that room.
Come on up here, Chuck.
But we do have soup. So that is my announcement.
Okay, Chuck, take it away.
Do a little prayer. and
We're
we'll
going to
pray.
say a quick blessing on our food, but we also are aware of what's happening in LA. And several of you today have shown me pictures. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to pray for the people in LA and pray for our food. How many of you have friends and family in LA that you're nervous about? I've seen pictures on people's cell phones this morning, and it's rough. So it's on fire. Chuck, you want to pray us out?
Let's join your hearts and minds with mine, and let's have a word of prayer. Dearest, most gracious and merciful Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this gathering, for the team of people who have put this together, this amazing opportunity to come, to learn, to create new lifestyles for ourselves and for others. Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge being shared throughout the room as well as from this stage. We thank you for your love and caring that we have for each other, only because you first had that love and caring for each of us. We do pray especially, Father, for those living in California in the area where the fires that are in harm's way. Your blessing, your helping hand, your mercy, your strength in their lives. And we thank you for the nourishment we are receiving here, the nourishment spiritually and emotionally as well as physically. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, go to lunch. Right out around the corner. There's warm soup too, along with a whole bunch of sandwiches. So we'll see you down there, guys. And this afternoon's going to be awesome. We have a couple of panels. We have more teaching. I'm doing a session, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you back in 1 hour.
is.
Enjoy your time of
Well,
epic
we all have.
networking.
Blessed that it hadn't cost me a lot.
Yeah. Yep. We've all made that mistake.